Our elected leaders have changed their views on whether you need a mask so often that it's hard to keep track. Most people have decided just to ignore the yelping. And that makes politicians very angry. You can disagree, but you can't ignore them. That may be why the director of Wisconsin's Department of Natural Resources is now commanding that government workers wear masks even when they're alone at home on a teleconference. The director is a man called Preston Cole, and that he says that wearing a mask alone at home sets an example that shows you, quote, care about the safety and health of others, even if there are no others and you're by yourself. Wearing a mask will keep you from infecting yourself with the coronavirus. Meanwhile, over in the state of Tennessee, a councilwoman called Sharon Hurt from Nashville believes you should face attempted murder charges if you don't wear a mask.
You know, I work for an organization that if they pass a virus, then they are tried for murder or attempted murder if they are not told. Maybe there needs to be stronger legislation to say that if you do not wear a mask and you subject exposure of this virus to someone else, then there will be some stronger penalty as it is in other viruses that are exposed.
Some stronger penalties. Possible we should simply execute people who don't wear masks for the sake of public health. That may be up for discussion soon. Meanwhile, at the University of Georgia, the university has posted so-called medical advice that students should wear a mask, a medical face mask, while having sex. They cited the Mayo Clinic for that. The school later removed the post after much-deserved mockery online. So should we be wearing masks home alone or while having sex? Dr. Scott Atlas has thought a lot about this. He's a member of the White House Coronavirus Task Force. He joins us tonight. Dr. Atlas, thanks so much for coming on.
Sure, thanks for having me, Tucker.
So as a man of science, if you could just explain the public health utility of wearing a mask home alone on a Zoom call. Is the virus transmissible through Zoom?
By the way, I want to correct you. I have not thought a lot about wearing a mask while having sex. I want to correct that.
I was trying to do it with a straight face. I couldn't.
Well, the reality is that there's certain data that's very controversial about masks. And I think the president said it correctly, honestly, when he said that in certain settings it's reasonable to wear a mask when you cannot social distance, and particularly if you're trying to protect a proximity to a high-risk individual or you are a high-risk individual. And I think that's a rational policy. I don't want to make fun of people who say these other things, though, and the reality is it's stemming from a massive amount of fear bordering on hysteria now. And this is a real problem because public policy is supposed to be taking into consideration not just stopping COVID-19 at all costs, but understanding the impact of people on what you do and what you say. And I think that's been a failure in some of the people who have been speaking out on this.
Well, fear has its political uses. That may explain it in part, but fear also has medical consequences. Does it not? It's not good for people to be terrified, filled with anxiety, is it?
Well, that's absolutely true. And it also, again, we need to live in a rational world. We need to show our children we use critical thinking. And it's, there's been a lot of sloppy thinking, as I've said many times, by people with very fancy CVs on this stuff. But reality is, there are reasons to wear a mask. But generally speaking, driving around in your car alone and some of the other scenarios you outlined does not really rational to wear a mask.
You see people running outside with no one around them or riding their bikes outside and wearing masks, and you kind of appreciate the effort they're putting in and the suffering they're going through while doing it. But is there science behind that decision? Is there a good reason to do that?
There's no real good science on general population, widespread in all circumstances, wearing masks. And that really has been sort of a failure of communication by people who are supposed to know better. When you look at an article that's published, you're not supposed to take the bottom line. You're actually supposed to look at it critically as a medical scientist and try to understand if you can actually draw the legitimate conclusion that the authors themselves are drawing. And much of the stuff on masks really is not very good science at all. And in fact, the WHO itself says there is no sound science for general population wearing masks. However, in certain settings, I think we can say it's reasonable to wear a mask. And the
Yes.
goal of public policy, honestly, is twofold here. The public policy is directly for stopping the deaths by protecting the high-risk people and preventing hospital overcrowding while you safely reopen society. The public policy is absolutely not just stop COVID-19 cases at all costs, no matter what. That is not appropriate policy.
And finally, you have seen a couple of high-profile people pass away from the coronavirus, from COVID-19, and you've seen media stories gleefully mocking their deaths. This was true for Herman Cain, a very nice man, by the way, who died because he had doubted the mask policy. Therefore, the media concluded he deserved to die. Is this a standard that you accept, that we mock people after they die? And should we apply it to other communicable diseases, that people somehow deserve to die if they don't follow the rules?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that's totally inappropriate, and it's sort of a symptom of both fear and, honestly, your profession, not you, but your profession, that has really highlighted and sensationalized things way out of proportion. And I'm not sure if it's just a sign of the times where we're living in this hyperbole of social media, or if there's other motivations, but really it's up to people who are legitimate, credible medical scientists to step up and articulate the logic and common sense policy, because you can't just say it's all about the science and then say things that are contrary to the science.
I think that's a very smart point, because no one believes you and you devalue your own credibility. I think that's really wise. Dr. Atlas, thank you.
Okay, thanks for having me.